Welcome to the Excel Purpose Show with Gangster.
All right, today we have with us Almighty King Rico. He is, where do I begin? From a former gangster to going to places that you would not expect right now. Met him at a Tony Robbins Breakthrough Challenge. Welcome, Rico.
Hey, what's up, Carms? How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, really good. Dude, tell me where you are at. Like, let's start from you when you were at the Tony's Challenge and you told an incredible story of, hey, you're picking things up. You're going to another level. You want to change. Like, people were fearing you and you're like, this is not the guy I want to be anymore. I don't want to be that monster where people are looking at this like tatted guy and they just like, I see fear in their eyes. Because you, at that point in time, you wanted to see your daughter. You were like losing her, right? Like it was like in court and stuff. Yeah. Tell us about what happened since. Like, Tony put you through leadership training. How was that?
Amazing. Phenomenal. I don't think I ever shared this story with anybody, but in there, I was really put to a real test. Everybody that goes to Leadership Academy, for the most part, they're like aspiring coaches, or people looking to make these next level breakthroughs. Typically, though, they want to be a coach. So everybody that's there is it's an easy flow. Everyone is going with the program. Everyone's there, so they're kind of making it easy for you in a sense because they're playing along. So they have you run these drills with people. They just match you with people, separate occasions with people just all over the world. Go. So I get in this room, this chat room with this one woman, and she wasn't there to be a coach. She was there because she was paid thousands of dollars because she wanted to get as close as she possibly could to figuring out this issue she was having. And her husband wanted her to do these sexual acts with another woman or he was going to leave her.
Right. Okay.
So she's telling me, so now the drill is shift the person's mindset. That's the drill. Take whatever it is that they have going on, create this positive memory, anchor that memory, and shift the mindset, right? So anytime that person has these disempowering thoughts, we're able to pull this memory out, snap our fingers, clap our hands, do something, some sort of action, and bow, we just anchored our superpower, right? Well, easy peasy when everyone's going along. But when this happened, the lady used words like she feels tortured and in other words. And so at first I was just like, oh man, her husband's gonna thank me, like, oh yeah, no problem. I'm like, I got you, bud. I'm gonna shift that and you're gonna be menage a trois, no problem, right? Because I thought that's what she wanted. Yeah. And this is a big thing to point out to people. Don't change because someone else wants you to change. Change because it's important to you. If you love that person enough, like I love my daughter enough where I had to change. I had to go through this. But don't change because someone wants you to change, is making you change. If that person loves you enough for who you are, and who you are is a beautiful person, there's always room for improvement. But this man wanted this woman to perform sexual acts that she just wasn't into. She wasn't interested in. And she used the word torture. And so I told her, I said, man, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I can't do this to this woman. I says, I'm going to play it through because that's the kind of person I am. I see things through, I'm going to play it through, but I don't think I can do this. And then when she started talking, I says, you know what? I says, I know what I'm going to do instead. I says, we are going to do this, except I'm not going to give you what you want for somebody else. I'm going to give you what it is that you need and you want for yourself. Because she was afraid that if she didn't do this, she would lose her husband. She was a beautifully attractive woman. She was torn to pieces, torn to shreds, but she was afraid that she was too old and had no worth anymore as a woman, that no man would want her. So I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to help you find this peace, help you find this calm. When were you your happiest? When were you free? And she remembered a time when she was 4 years old, freestyling music, just singing off the top of her head, no rhythm, no rhyme, but being a free, innocent child singing. So when she felt the most free, I says, experience that again, relive that. We're going to anchor that feeling. We're going to bring it forward. and by the time she was done, she was in a state of feeling her worth, feeling freedom. That's really what she wanted. It's really what she needed. The coaches jumped in. Ricardo, you're doing a great job, and they helped me anchor her all the rest of the way, because I still didn't know what I was doing. It was new for me, and they thanked me. They were like, what you did was right. You have to have a moral compass, and I couldn't try to manipulate this woman into accepting something that she self-proclaimed as torturous to her. So that was my experience. It was mind-blowing, breathtaking. It was just the whole roller coaster ride. Almost fell out of my seat.
Totally curious. So what happened? Did you catch up with her after? Did she end up standing her ground? What happened?
I would love to know what happened. I'm not sure. Something like that doesn't just happen overnight. You know, that's something that would have to be exercised every day, something that would have to be exercised with more tools, more techniques.
Yeah.
That's just not something that can happen overnight, but hopefully it was enough to give her comfort in, you know what, I have value. If this guy can't see it, then I'm better off on my own. Someone will see this value that I have.
Yeah, totally. Epic. I love it. So that was kind of like the moment that really hit home. It's like, oh, I can help other people. And congratulations, by the way, you finished the training and you are now a breakthrough coach helping other people. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tell me about where, I know that you released a song for UPW, Phoenix Rising. Awesome song, by the way.
Thank you.
That is so cool. And that actually Tony actually started using that and you were like, so you got printed with his ambassador. How is that all going? Do you stay in contact with Tony's team? Is any further opportunities where you're working together? Where are things with you? What's your next program? What's happening in that space?
Yeah, so as far as the ambassador part, I don't know where that came from. It just started floating around on the internet. I don't know who put the label on me, whatever, but it was nothing that Tony gave me officially, but I do promote everything Tony Robbins. But I am involved in an upcoming event. Tony and them are very secretive, so I don't even know what it is, to be honest. But yeah, his assistant contacted me and she said, hey, we have a special project going on. I don't know if it's going to be in the Unshakable Challenge. I don't know if I'm going to be featured in that at the end of this month. I think it's the 21st. It's like next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know if I'm going to be featured in that or if it's going to be something different. I don't know. But she contacted me and said, hey, we're working on a special project, you know, with people doing extraordinary things. And she said, and you were the first person to jump in my mind. And she was just like, you know, just ran down a list of the things that I accomplished in 2022. And I was just like, yeah, you know, that pretty much sums it up. And so I don't know, but I know that there's a platform, a Tony Robbins platform, and I'm going to be there. And what I'm going to be promoting is my upcoming book, No More Chains, with a Z at the end. No More Chains. It's an autobiography, but it's also a self-development how-to guide using my language, my steps, my journey as the guide, and to help people make breakthroughs going through similar situations. One thing I learned along this journey is that we go through the same thing, similar situations, just a different story. It's just a different perspective, different shoes. Some people could say, some people tell me, you know, man, I've never been in your shoes. I've never been in that to that degree, but somewhere along the lines, they've been in that emotion. They've been in that feeling. They've been in that state. And so I think it's a very well put together how-to guide, ultimately to find peace within.
You know what? When I've been in this like space and NLP, it's all around like, hey, what's the other person's model of the world? And when I think about you, it's like someone can think, how could you be like talking to someone that's like done all this bad stuff? And like, if someone's done something bad, do they ever change kind of thing, right? And then when I talk to you, there's this really beautiful soul coming out. And it actually really changed my mindset in terms of, yeah, people can do bad stuff, but ultimately it's not like people are necessarily born bad. They were just placed in a terrible environment and they had to do it to survive. You haven't radically, shift your environment per se, like you're kind of still living where you're at. How do you deal with the people that you still see, the gang members that you do Do you still socialize with them? Like, how do you navigate your world now when you're breaking through into this completely different route? How do these people see you? How do you deal with that dynamic?
So I love the question. I love the question. So it's people, places, things. I went through every psychological program that they have offered by the United States government as part of my conditions of terms of release, that I had to go undergo anger management, all these other different things. And I did find a lot of use. There were a lot of good tools. The only problem, I won't say the only problem, because I don't want to discourage anybody from it, but there wasn't the connection. It was a educator point of view, and so there wasn't the connection. So I decided to be the connection, to give people the educator point of view attached with the experience. But part of what they teach is people, places, things. So if you go around the same people, if you go around the same places, if you are involved in the same things, have the same things, you're going to backslide. You're going to go back into this, what the brain knows, NLP, the neurological programming. It's just going to fall back into to what it knows. And so when I got out of prison, I didn't go back to Chicago. I came to Phoenix. So I'm not around the same people. I don't know anybody.
Right.
And I'm not looking to know anybody out here, because I don't want those triggers. It's being aware, identifying your triggers, taking accountability, being accountable for how you respond. You have a response ability. You have the ability to respond in different types of ways. So take responsibility. And so that's what I do. I know that I am not a pleasant person when I'm drinking. I don't go to bars. I stay away from bars. I stay away from drinking. New Year's Eve comes, I don't have any drinks. The things that I was into were either being shot at or attempting to shoot somebody. You know what I'm saying? I don't do those things anymore. The things that I do, I just left the gym. I was just in the gym right now. And when I'm done here with you, I'm going out the gym. So I switched it. So I'm around people like Carms, people that are going somewhere in their life, that are moving forward, that have a goal, that have a focus. Now in relation to my people back home, I go back home and they roll out the red carpet for me. And that's because the person that I am now here today, I was that same person back then, except it wasn't productive on a positive note, a humanity level, for society, for the civilian world. It was positive. It wasn't constructive. It was destructive. But even that had positivity in that realm, in that world. I was always the same guy. I was going to go hard. And so I went hard there. And people know who I was. And there's still a sort of fear factor to that effect, where they see I'm not somebody you want to mess with. You know what I'm saying? And so they understand that I did my part, paid my dues. I contributed. I gave my life. And that goes a long way with the people you love. When you're in shootouts, when you're being shot at with somebody, or if you're in a cell with somebody and you have a pack of crackers, he has a pack of noodles, we're going to eat together, and other people from other cells, they have one Slim Jim, the other guy has one this, one that. Next thing you know, we have this big spread, we have this big thing, and we're all eating together. That creates this bond, that creates this brotherhood. And so I'm not coming out, and now I'm not coming out just, I'm going to change my life and forget my past, forget my neighborhood. No, I'm bettering myself for my kids, first and foremost, for both my daughters. I got back in my youngest daughter's life. I'm reaching out to my oldest daughter, and I know she's receptive. It's just about getting her mom on board and going through more of the legal system. But I'm prepared for it. I'm getting prepared for it. And then after that, it's first it comes self, kids, because if you don't put the mask on yourself first, you can't put the mask on anyone else if you're passed out, if you pass out, if you're unconscious. So put the mask on self first, then put the mask on the people around you, your kids, your family. And now what I'm doing is I'm reaching out back to my community, looking to work with these nonprofits and to get them help with counseling and therapists, and just inspire my people. Just me talking. These are a bunch of tough guys. These are tough guys where their tattoos on their face really mean something. You know what I'm saying? And they love it. They're inspired by it. Yeah. From coast to coast, from the West Coast to the East Coast, from New York to California. everybody that's in my network back home to Chicago, everybody in my neighborhood, everybody where I care, people that I thought would be looking at me funny are looking at me as a source of light, as for inspiration, because they know I was there with them. I slept on the floor with them, roaches and rats. I sold drugs out of the same abandoned buildings with them. I got shot at with them, went to jail with them. And so I'm able to show that you can come out of that. You have a purpose in this life, in this world, and we can make it. And I'm gonna lead them. I'm gonna show them how we do it.
Dude, that is so good. I really love the way you gave us those insights, because I don't think people can imagine it. Like, this is the first time we really spoke about it on that level. But you're so true. It's like, and I can feel that. It's like those core values around, hey, leadership or hey, compassion and loyalty, that's all there. It was just that environment. Yeah, when you're talking about the packet of noodles and stuff, it's like, yeah, I can imagine that scene, right? It's like you do with what you have and sharing that, and they still know all of that. That's so cool. And I love that the Phoenix Rising actually has the extra double meaning to it. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize you were at the Phoenix was like the new place that you were rising at. So that's awesome that you found a little bit of a
I love that you caught that. I love that you caught that. Thank you. I love it. I love that you caught that.
Yeah.
So for the first verse, I arranged the words, but that's all Tony. Everything I'm talking about in the first verse, that's all Tony. I said, I want to live in, wow, I don't even remember the lyrics, but I know I said progress is the key to have. If I rewrite my story, will it really work? Because Tony's always talking about rewriting story. I want abundance, but keep on running from it. Limiting beliefs are keeping me on crutches. It's all Tony's language. We have these limiting beliefs that are holding us back. We want the abundance, but we're still holding on to these crutches. And guess what? We can walk, we can run, we can sprint, but we find comfort in this crutch. So we hold on to it and we move slow. We limp our way there when that's just a limiting belief. You don't need that crutch. You've been healed a long time ago. It's time to start training those muscles so you can run a marathon. So the beliefs keeping me on crutches. Progress is the key to happiness. Tony's famous quote. Gotta live in gratitude. Realize that I'm really blessed. That's all Tony. What do I do when I'm feeling hopeless? Change my state. Redirect the focus. All Tony. Perception or procedure? Tony. A call to actions needed. Tony. Can't control events. Only how I will perceive it. Tony. So I may have to. Can't control events. Only how I will perceive it. Can't impose my beliefs on other people, so I may have to change how I handle a grievance. Tony. And so that was all Tony. I just formulated it. The last verse was all me. I give you the story of my life. I was homeless and starved with suicidal thoughts. Whole life fell apart. I was living in the dark. Hit the bottle hard every day. Violent. Want the world to feel my pain. Rising from the ashes with a new existence. So it's no coincidence where I live is Phoenix. And I'm glad you caught that, because it's no coincidence now that this is where I live in Phoenix. I didn't even realize it when I first came out here. I just wanted to be close to my daughter and be in her life. And just when I went through the UPW and unleashing the power within, I just felt my glow. I felt like I was rising from the ashes. I felt like this Phoenix. And I'm like, wow, it's no coincidence that I'm living in Phoenix. I am the embodiment of that, like rising from the ashes, the whole identity challenge, who you were then to who you will become. And I really walked into that. I really made that mine. And I'm glad Tony sent me a message. I don't know if I could play it at the same time and you'd be able to hear it. Tell me if you hear this.
Rico, it's Tony Robbins. Listen, man, I loved your song. I love the beat. It slaps. It's just awesome. I think this is just the coolest thing. I've had so many people make songs over the years, and I appreciate them. But this is one I really love to use, maybe even an event, brother. It's really that good. No bullshit. So if you need better audio for the piece that's the beginning there, it's because a little tinny on my phone. But when you take it over, it just crushes. And I love that it has our conversation in there. That's just really, really cool. So thanks for sending it. And I'd love to spread it with you, if that's all right with you. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you at the event at the UPW, man. Take care of yourself. Stay in touch. Blessings.
So he uses it for the UPW, and people all over the world were downloading it and they Shazammed it. People were showing me videos. Oh, look at these people from our group, they're Shazamming it, and Almighty King Rico. And And so I'm very proud of that. I'm glad that Tony really helped change my life. Like I said, I did all the educator standpoint, but what separated Tony from and all the other motivational speakers, but what separated Tony from the rest was the connection. Tony gave you a part of himself. Tony Tony told you his story about his mom and his 4 different dads growing up. Tony told you the story about how his dad just walked out on them. Tony told you the story about how his dad, they had no food for Thanksgiving, and then somebody left groceries and his dad refused when the man was just like, are you going to let your family starve on Thanksgiving? And his dad finally took the food. Being able to connect with that at some capacity, being able to, it's, rejection, abandonment, neglect, dealing with significance, with having 4 different dads and mom probably trying to appease them and not you, trying to figure out where you fit in, talking about going to school and being bullied, and he's like 6'7", being bullied, just this big tall nerd, and looking at these guys like, how is this guy popular? He's not nice at all. And being able to relate to that in some capacity. When I share my story, I talk about I became violent because I seen violence happening and I knew it produced results. But after my brother's father had got murdered and I witnessed him die, I stared him in the eyes as he was dying. I watched him die, and so I was this very sad kid. And so,
how old were you, Rico?
8 years old. And so I was being bullied because I was sad. Kids want to pick on the sad guy. But I'm thankful for my cousin Tony Lopez. He made me fight every kid in the neighborhood. I went to go live with my aunt and my uncle, and he made me go in Bolingbrook, Illinois, and he made me fight every kid in the neighborhood that summer. And he threatened me, like, if you don't fight these guys, I'm going to tell your mom and your uncles. My uncles were people in the streets. They were somebodies. They had a reputation. And if I let them down, I was going to get my butt kicked by all of them. So I went out there and I beat ass. I went out there and I beat ass. These kids didn't want it as bad as I did. And then you relate to Tony. When Tony's talking about Napoleon Hill and the book that he wrote, Burn the Ships. You want to win, you got to burn the ships. Because now they don't want it as bad as you. You want to get off this island. And so I take all these different stories, I take these things with Tony, and I'm able to relate to it. And that's where it was the difference with me. I had a connection. I felt connected with Tony. I felt so connected with Tony that I used my powers and my energy and I manifested him into my life.
I love it. Tell me more about the No More Chains. When is that coming out, Rico?
So, man, it is really, really good. And it's not just because I'm writing it. This is really good. We're talking about, I'm giving you guys just a glimpse. When I go into detail, talking about what it is I seen, would you like me to read just a little piece to you?
Yeah, if there's something particularly meaningful, yeah, go for it.
Okay, so check this out. I went deaf. I can only describe it as if someone had hit a rewind button. The way my mother's screams had faded out, almost as if there was a vacuum in my ears sucking out all the sound. The doorbell rang. The Chicago Bulls were playing. And we were all in the living room of the 2nd floor apartment on 25th Street and South Christiana Avenue. My mom said, I'll get the door. Sam was on the floor playing with my 4-month-old baby brother and said, don't worry about it, I'll get it. And he handed my brother over to my mom, who was sitting on the couch and headed downstairs. A few seconds passed and we heard a loud boom. Me and my mom both looked at each other terrified. I was all too familiar with gunshots. I was born to the Lawndale Projects on 25th in California, across the street from Cook County Jail. I grew up most of my life in that area between Cermak and 31st Street, between Pulaski and Western, and spent most of my childhood with my grandparents on 24th in Christiana, 1 block north of where the first gun blast had shattered our peaceful little family. There was no mistaking it. I was 8 years old and had to have heard just about every kind of gun blast imaginable. Growing up in that area was like growing up in a war zone. My first recollection of gunshots were at 5 years old. I remember me and my cousins making a game out of it, ducking from the windows and having our favorite spots to hide. We sometimes get into fights over who was there first and whose spot it was. But I've been involved in shootouts ever since I was born. Both my mom and dad were gang members and would hang out on the Marshall Boulevard by 21st Street and California Avenue. I was just a few months old and my mom was only 15, practically a baby herself, when a car pulled up and opened fire on us. My mom said that she threw my stroller to the ground so I wouldn't get hit by a bullet that was meant for her. Boom, 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 boom. 4 more shots let off. My mom screamed, Sam! She handed me my brother and ran to the door leading to the stairwell. She told me, take your brother and sister, lock yourselves in the room. I did just that, but when I got to the room, I heard the most horrific scream I've ever heard to this day. I told my sister, take the baby, lock the door, and don't open it for anybody except me and mommy, okay? My 5-year-old baby sister nodded yes, and I ran out the room. The door was cracked open. I could feel the fresh, cold chill that only a Chicago wind can carry in early January. As I slowly approached the door and extended my hand gently to push it open, I could hear my mom begging Sam not to die. Sam, don't do this to me. The baby, Sam, don't do this to the baby. Who did this to you? Tell me. Hurt, anger, pain, and devastation as she screamed and begged for answers. It was hard to imagine anyone doing something like this to Sam. He was not like my father. He wasn't a gang member. He wasn't a violent man. He didn't hit my mom or poke her with a baseball bat like my father did. He wouldn't get high or drink or do any kind of drugs like my sister's father. Sam was a really good guy, and this would be the last time any of us would ever see him again. I poked my head from around the corner of the doorway and stood at the top of the stairs looking down. I could no longer hear my mom's screams and yells. I could see her lips moving in slow motion, but I couldn't hear anything. We lived at the end of the block next to 26th Street, and even the infamous traffic noise from 26th Street was drowned out. It happened the moment I made eye contact with him. I remember seeing a glare in his eyes, the look of a lost soul trying to find its way to its next place in the universe. I like to believe that that place is some version of a heaven. I knew he was dying. I could see life slowly drifting away. When someone dies, their spirit leaves through their eyes. I was 8 years old, and this would be the first death I witnessed. I was staring death in the eyes and would be given an out-of-body experience for doing so. I don't know how it happened, but all I remember is I was hovering over my own body, looking down at myself. Then the next thing I knew is I was looking up at myself from the bottom of the stairs through Sam's eyes. I could see what he was seeing. He was looking at my silhouette at the top of the stairs. I looked more like a shadow because his eyes were squinting. The hallway light above my head was bright and his eyes were glossy, filled with water, so I looked distorted. I now know that glare in his eyes was the light above me, and the sound that was drowning out was me living his experience at that moment. I don't know how it happened. I don't know how to explain it. All I know is he could no longer hear my mother. He couldn't hear anything. He didn't feel anything either. It was peaceful. At 8 years old, I experienced death without having a chance to first experience life.
That is so crazy, Rico. I'm like kind of like tingling over here because I'm like, that's incredible. The writing, I can't even describe how I feel. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. No 8-year-old should have to go through that. Thanks for sharing the vulnerability. I know it will touch a lot of people's heart, especially the people that you once hung out with and still do. They will go through things like this, and a lot of people in America will have probably gone through something like that with the gun laws and stuff. And on some level, I feel grateful that I have not experienced things like that in Australia. We have a very strong gun law, and don't really see those things, but I can't even imagine what that is like. And when you describe it, I almost wish that maybe one day it will turn into a movie, Rico.
It will. It's going to.
Yeah.
It's going to.
Yeah. Is that what really gave you your purpose when you witnessed that and felt that? And what happened from that point? How did it change you?
So we talk about these emotional shifts. It's a significant emotional shift that happened in my life. Our brains, our subconscious records everything and still frames. It records everything from the moment we were born. And what happens immediately at that time when your body goes into shock, that stress, it's looking for a way to protect you. It kicks into survival mode. And so it's like a bunch of just clips going through your head until it finds something that says, hey, this will help you not feel this way. And the clip that it found was, it's also part of that chapter, the section called Uncle Mondo, was when I go back a lot in my book. Like when you read this book or when it becomes a movie, if you're not there every second of the way, if you don't read every page, if you don't start from the beginning, you're not going to know what's going on if you come in the middle or some other places. Because I jump around. I go from the past to the present, back to the past, and
That's the best.
back to the present. Yeah. And so within that memory that I'm telling this story, I go into another memory that I had at that moment from when my mom was married to my sister's father. You know, the oldest three children have different dads. I'm the oldest, and my sister is the second oldest. And my brother, he's the third child. His dad got killed. My sister's father used to beat my mom, and he used to beat me. I was 5 years old and almost beat my mom to death a few times. And he beat 4 miscarriages out of my mom. And my mom was living in torture. She was 18, 19 years old, and she was just living in this. She wouldn't visit our family. She would have to hide because she was always just beaten and battered. And one day, my Uncle Mondo, he came out of the Navy. And Uncle Mondo's a crazy son of a bitch. Crazy. He's a crazy motherfucker. Excuse my language. He's crazy, man. And he was walking through rival gang territory by himself. He hoping to, get into some extracurricular activities, but not. He's gonna go see his kid sister along the way. She wouldn't open the door for him. She opened it about halfway. And in this book, I have sketches of these things. So it's like a woman behind the door, just showing half her face. You know what I mean? But the other half is all just beaten up. And so I remember being 5 years old and just being back there and looking, and I'm terrified because he just beat my mom, and I don't know what to do. And now this is what I want to talk to people about a lot too. I struggled a lot with suicide, wanting to kill myself. And it goes back to that time. I was able to unlock it because at that time at 5 years old, I just wanted to escape. I tried killing myself when I was like 5 years old. I tried to hang myself because I obviously seen it. You're only 5 years old, and that subconscious is taking these shot frames, and it's gonna say, "Hey, how do you protect yourself? What's a way out of this?" Somewhere along the lines, I seen a movie or something where someone hung themselves, and that's what I wanted to do. Uncle Mondo came in and changed all of that for me, in a good way and in a bad way. He came in, seen my mom beat up, and kicked the crap out of my sister's father, beat him so bad. And what happened to me right there was, psychological effect that happened to me right there was, this is the answer. This is how you not feel afraid anymore. You become violent. And so Uncle Mondo was a somebody, and so he told the guys in the neighborhood, who all looked to my mom like they were her little sister, because she's only 2 years younger than Mondo. So she was kid sister to all these teenage boys, these gang members, these tough guys who grew up to be, some pretty serious men in the streets. So anytime they saw that guy, he was getting his butt whooped. It was him who was now hiding his face from family and friends because he had black eyes. He freed my mother. He freed my mother. And he freed me. And then going back to the future after Sam's death, and I was sad, and my cousin Tony was making me fight all these people and telling and saying, "Oh, your uncles are going to do this or that." And it just clicked. It just registered. I have to make people fear me to get the results that I want out of life.
Right.
And it served me in that environment, in those life conditions.
Yeah.
But as somebody trying to be a father, trying to be a husband, trying to be just a civilian, just a guy who goes to work every day, it doesn't serve you. And this is why the recidivism rate for prison is so high. This is why people go back to prison. And this is why I'm here. This is why God chose me to help them not go back.
Did you feel like prison helped discipline you or gave you that quiet time to reflect?
Absolutely. Absolutely. it's a choice. It's a decision to make. Because at the same time, you just adapt and you just adapt and you evolve. You just adapt, adaptation to your environment.
Yeah.
So you do what you have to do in there to survive, but it just becomes a habit now. It's just a new habit. So when you come out into the world, what do you have? These habits that only served you in this environment.
Right. That also doesn't work. It wasn't giving you the strategy to be a good father and a good husband, right? Yeah.
Exactly. It taught you how to live in those conditions.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Which isn't real life.
But when I got there, I made the determination that I wasn't going to let this time be in vain. I was 300 pounds. I worked out. I had lost 80 pounds. And I started educating myself, started reading. Anytime we were locked down or anything, I didn't watch TV. The only thing that I did was I played chess, and I got a job. I got a job as a tutor. I was a teacher. I was helping people get their GED. I was helping famous criminals that are arrested for like 100 murders. I'm sitting there with them, you know what I mean? And some of these guys they're good guys, just, man, bad decisions. And a lot of them were because they're a product of their environment, because there was nobody there to help them, to guide them, to show them. Some of these guys could have been Fortune 500 CEOs. Instead, they were drug empire bosses.
Yeah. Awesome. That is so cool. Thank you for the inspiration, Rico. Keep doing the amazing work that you are. I'll let you get back into the gym. And just this last question, where should people find you? What's the best place?
Everything, just Almighty King Rico. My YouTube page, Almighty King Rico. It has my other links, my Instagram, Almighty King Rico, Facebook page, Almighty King Rico. And for the coaching, you'll find it in Rico Sanchez Breakthrough Coaching.
Amazing. Thank you, Rico.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you for having me, Carms.
Excel in life, live your purpose, be free.